The Forsaken Heir. Previous episodes are available on the playlist. You can also visit our website for your favorite stories. A link is provided in the video description. Episode 68. When Yanzhen and Yang Gong are planning a bright future, Wu Liang and Wei Guang on the side also have their own thoughts. The three Gu family brothers gave birth to 8 children in total. Philip has only one daughter, Sarah. And Yanzhen has 3 children, 2 daughters and 1 son, Wu Liang. Yang Gong has 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son, Wei Guang. Because other males are not very promising, Wu Liang and Wei Guang, respectively, will undoubtedly be the only heirs to their father's property in the future. Wei Guang saw the cordial enthusiasm between his father and his second uncle, and couldn't help but look at himself and his cousin Wu Liang next to him, and wondered in his heart, when I inherit my father's family property and shares in the future, will I have to be like my father cheating on the second uncle? Go to cheat my cousin? If I need to stick to him in the future, shouldn't I just start to suck him up now? And his cousin Wu Liang thought, the cousin Wei Guang next to him is actually not very clever, and he is not a compatriot with him. To be honest, the relationship is not deep. My father, my third uncle, and even the eldest brother who is a naughty compatriot can cheat, so in the future, can I also learn how to cheat Wei Guang? Thinking of this, he felt that the nature of this matter was actually very interesting. First, the family property was divided into 3, and the second family and the third family joined forces to annex the old family. Then the second family looked for a chance to annex the third family. Then, wouldn't the entire Gu family fall into his own hands? At this point, Wu Liang couldn't help getting excited. Don't look at Gu's family in the entire East Cliff, it can only be ranked 3rd. However, if you can sit on the entire Gu family alone, you can become the richest person in East Cliff, not one of them. Even if it was the top 2 big families of the Wade family and the Sui family, it was impossible for anyone to be richer than the Gu family. At that time, I said that I could not be a real Chinese richest man. Wei Guang didn't know that his cousin who wanted to hurry up was actually starting to plan how to cheat him. He deliberately had nothing to say, and said to Wu Liang with a smile on his face, "Hey, brother, is that man at uncle's house, is he the boyfriend of the daughter?" Wu Liang shook his head, "Don't know. The girl is also a public figure. If she falls in love, the paparazzi will definitely dig it out, right? But I haven't heard anything." Wei Guang chuckled and said, "Do you remember that this dog ran the train with his mother's mouth full, and said that we will be infertile in the future? When I get the chance, he must get rid of his stuff. Let him know what is true infertility." Wu Liang snorted coldly, "Master is very capable in that aspect. He is well known in the upper circle of East Cliff. Dare to say that it makes me infertile? The woman I played with is better than him. Have seen so many." "Yes." Wei Guang complimented, "Brother, how does that female celebrity you got started 2 days ago feel?" "It's okay." Wu Liang said casually, "It's not bad, it's a bit poor, and too thin." Wei Guang hurriedly said flatteringly, "Brother Abner, I have a brother who runs a brokerage company that specializes in cultivating high-end models. There are several great European GRLs. Are you interested in getting started and changing tastes?" Wu Liang frowned, a trace of lust flashed in his eyes, and asked, "When?" Wei Guang hurriedly said, "It's better to hit the sun if you choose another day, just chant today. Later you will take my car and I will take you directly, how about it?" "Yes." Liang nodded without hesitation. Today, he was humiliated by Charlie. He was in a depressed mood. Unexpectedly, Wei Guang immediately arranged an opportunity for him to vent the fire, and naturally he immediately agreed. In the evening, brothers Liang and Wei Guang came out of the hospital. They drove a car and went to an extremely high-end club in East Cliff. The name of this club is very popular, it is called Number 1 Mansion. If you want to set up a VIP in Mansion 1, you have to shoot at least 10 million. Because here, VIP has its own luxurious suites, which not only include restaurants, KTV, bathing hot springs and spa services, but also bedrooms, meeting rooms, chess and card rooms. In addition, VIP also has its own personal butler and personal attendant. Once you come here, you can enjoy the dedicated imperial service, which is more chic than the ancient emperor. In other words, the members who have organized here can not only eat, drink and have fun, but also hold business meetings and banquets, which have a wide range of uses. Moreover, the privacy here is excellent, so you don't have to worry about leaking your privacy. Because of the many benefits of Number 1 Mansion, it is deeply loved by the rich people of East Cliff. Both Liang and Wei Guang are members here, but they rarely play together, they all play their own games. Today, in order to please Liang, Wei Guang asked his friend who started a brokerage company to bring 4 young European M0DELS over, and he was ready to let Liang have a good time. It was also considered as laying the foundation for his future. Liang was holding his stomach and couldn't vent, just planning to have a good time here tonight. Soon, 4 young blonde M0DELS were brought over, and each one was beautiful and moving, which made Liang excited. He immediately and unceremoniously chose the 2 most beautiful and best figures, and went to the luxurious bedroom in the suite. And Wei Guang also took him to pick the remaining 2 and went to another room. 5 minutes later, the brothers ran out of their rooms in a panic. The 2 looked at each other at the door, or Liang spoke first, "Wei Guang, can you do that?" Wei Guang was crying and shook his head. He spoke with tremors and crying voices. He choked up and said, "Brother, I'm not working anymore. I have no feeling or reaction at all. I'm so infertile." After speaking, he looked at Liang and asked him, "You brother, do you still have it?" Liang sat down on the ground and muttered, "I am gone, what is going on, I'm only in my 20s. How can I say that I can't do it?" Wei Guang asked, "Brother, do you feel like that part has been completely disconnected from the body?" Wei Guang nodded brightly and said with red eyes, "That's how it feels." Wei Guang was crumbling, pressed against the wall, and slowly slipped to the ground, desperately saying, "Brother, what do you say about this?" Liang said in a flustered manner, "Could it be that the kid today was right? No way. We have to go to the hospital and check it out. What's going on?" The 2 brothers had just slipped away from the hospital more than half an hour ago, and hurried back soon afterward. To find out this kind of hidden disease, they only trust their own hospital, because if they are in other hospitals, it is likely to leak the wind. If East Cliff's dudes knew that the two young masters of the Gu family had suddenly lost their ability in that respect, it would not only be shame for them, but the entire Gu family would be embarrassed because of them. Become the object of ridicule for the entire East Cliff talk after dinner. The two returned to the hospital, ignoring their father, who was still training in the ward, and rushed directly into the office of the hospital director. The dean was preparing to get off work at this time, and suddenly saw the two young masters of the Gu family coming, and immediately asked compliments, "Mr. Waliang, Mr. Wei Guang, what can you do with me?" Waliang blurted out, "Dean, quickly arrange for someone to check it up for us. We are both sick." The dean asked in surprise, "What is wrong? What is the problem? You two will probably introduce me, and then I will arrange related experts to check on you two immediately." Waliang looked around. There was no one else in the office, and the doors and windows of the room were closed. So he gritted his teeth and resisted embarrassment and said, "I don't seem to feel any more." "There? Where?" Waliang pointed to his CR0TCH. "Here, where could it be, do you know it?" The dean hurriedly waved his hands in fright. No, Mr. Waliang, how come there is no feeling there? Is it because you have encountered a functional obstacle? It's a hindrance to your mother." Waliang cursed, "I don't feel it at all, understand? It's just like a disconnect. I can't feel it anymore." "No!" the dean exclaimed, "I have never encountered this kind of thing. It stands to reason that this is unlikely. If the ability is damaged, there may be some obstacles, but it is impossible. I can't feel it at all." Waliang slapped him and scolded, "I need you to repeat what I have said with interrogative sentences. Hurry up and arrange an examination for me. If the best treatment period is delayed, I will kill you." When Wei Guang saw his cousin start his hand, he immediately stepped forward and kicked the dean, gritted his teeth and said, "You not in a hurry? Believe it or not to fire you tonight." The dean was extremely aggrieved, but dared not to speak, so he respectfully said, "Two young masters, wait a minute, I will arrange for an andrology expert to come over." Soon after, the andrology specialist from the hospital came to the dean's office. After understanding the relevant situation, he immediately took the two young masters of the Gu family to the examination room for examination. 10 minutes later, the andrology expert group of the entire hospital gathered in the examination room. Some have already driven a few kilometers away after getting off work, and some are simply taking a break today, but because of the important matter, they are still called over. The expert team of 7 or 8 people was at a loss for the situation of the two young masters of the Gu family. They used various means to check and found nothing abnormal, but the two always insisted that they didn't feel anything at all. This incident disturbed Yan Zhen and Yang Gong, who were resting in the intensive care unit. The two heard that their sons had some problems, so they hurried over. After inquiring about the situation, the two were shocked. Yan Zhen trembled all over, and blurted out and asked the director of the andrology department, "What is going on? Has the cause been investigated?" The director of the andrology department wiped a cold sweat, and said, "Second master, this thing is really weird. We have used various methods to check, but there is no clue. I have been in andrology for decades, and I have never seen it. Have such cases. Philip was looking at the two crying children, frowning and asked, "Is there no way to cure it?" The director of the andrology department said embarrassingly, "Second Lord, whether it can be cured is the second stage of the problem. The first stage of the problem is to figure out what is going on first, and we are completely confused now." Yan Zhen felt dizzy in his brain, and thought to himself, "What is this?" The two children are both in their 20s, and the youngest Wei Guang is just in his early 20s. Isn't that clear? Gu family has nothing more important, but these two males. If neither of them can work, then who will succeed the Gu family in the future? I haven't had a grandson yet. Thinking of this, Yan Zhen hurriedly looked at his son Waliang, and blurted out, "Waliang, tell your dad, what is going on? How do you feel?" Waliang was dragged to do so many tests. The doctor hadn't found out what was going on, so he became more and more desperate at this time, crying and saying, "Dad! Don't know what's going on. It's inexplicable. No, the key is that I don't feel anything. I pinch with my nails, but I don't feel anything at all. Even if it hurts, it's a good thing." Wei Guang also cried and said, "I also pinched secretly just now. I didn't have much energy, but I still felt nothing." Yang Gong almost couldn't stand firmly, and hurriedly comforted, "Son, don't worry, son, hold on first, don't panic, let's slowly figure out a solution." Waliang said at this time, "Dad, do you think it has anything to do with the kid we met at the uncle's house today? That kid said today that if I wanted to lose my fertility. I thought this kid was just a bad mouth. But looking at it now, this thing is too fable, could it be he did it?" "That's right." Wei Guang also resentfully said, "That kid has a cheap mouth. If he says he is better, he can ligate us both." Cloud ligation. Several male doctors were stunned. Having studied medicine for many years, who has heard of such a thing as cloud ligation? It's totally impossible. Yan Zhen suddenly thought of what Charlie said at the time. His expression became more and more solemn. At this time, he looked at Yang Gong next to him, and said puzzledly, "Third brother, do you remember? That kid seemed to have asked both of us, saying that we are not too old and that we still have fertility. Remember?" Yang Gong nodded again and again. "That kid was too bad to talk, I was still scolding him in my heart." Yan Zhen smacked his lips and said solemnly, "Why do I think the more and more I feel, what's wrong with this?" Having said that, he frowned for a while and was silent for a while, then suddenly reached out and grabbed a hand into his crotch. After catching this one, he looked horrified and shouted in a panic, "Quick! Doctor, I can't feel it anymore. Check it out for me as soon as possible." Yan Zhen's words not only shocked everyone present, but also made the third Yang Gong around him involuntarily clamp his legs. In terms of probability and logic, the son, nephew, and second elder brother all have problems in that area, and the chances that he will be spared accidentally are very slim. Therefore, he also hurriedly inserted his hand into his trouser pocket, through the lining of the trouser pocket, went there and pinched it. After this pinch, he was shocked immediately. Because he can't feel it at all. He immediately cried and wailed, "Are you still there? Check it out for me too, and I suddenly didn't feel it. The whole treatment room is full of shock. This is too incredible, right? 2 generations of the Gu family and 4 males have all lost that ability? How is this possible? If it is caused by illness, most of the diseases similar to the deterioration of body function are not contagious, like paralysis, stroke, Parkinson's, frostbite, and muscle weakness. Similar diseases have never been contagious. Therefore, if one of these 4 people had such a problem, it would still be understandable. However, 4 people appear at the same time, which is too weird. Moreover, even if it is a genetic problem, there has never been a case of a family of 4 at the same time. For example, all men in this family have inherited the gene for hair loss. There is also a period of time. For example, they all begin to lose a lot of hair around the age of 40, and they are completely bald around the age of 50. However, I have never heard of anyone with hereditary fertility loss. Then one day, 4 men, 48, 46, 24, and 21, all became useless at the same time. What a thing! The director of the andrology department became more and more confused as he thought about it, and his already nervous palms were full of sweat. Because he has no idea where to start the treatment. After a systematic test, he was basically able to determine that all the 4 people in the Gu family had exactly the same symptoms, but he just didn't understand what caused them to get sick. So he hurriedly asked, "Second Mr. and Third Master, you two will help me carefully recall what unusual places you have been to together recently, what unusual foods have been eating together, and what unusual things have been encountered together." Things? Especially things with radioactive contamination. No. Yan Zhen blurted out, "We have been in East Cliff for this period of time, and we haven't been anywhere. We haven't touched anything strange." Yang Gong nodded again and again. "Our respective homes have comprehensive monitoring equipment. The quality of water supply and air quality are constantly monitored. There are no sources of pollution in the house, and a comprehensive radiological investigation has been done. There is absolutely no possibility of any radioactive materials." That's too weird. The director of the andrology department bit the bullet and said, "The current situation is that the cause of the disease cannot be found at all. If the cause of the disease cannot be found, there is no way to start the treatment." Yan Zhen yelled, "Mom's waste! You can't even find the cause of the disease. What do you want you to do?" The director of the andrology department said humbly, "Second Lord, you can certainly realize this is very strange for me. It may even be beyond the scope of medicine, so even if you beat me and scold me, it will not help. Where we are now, we must work together to find a way to find out the cause of the disease, and then follow the path to find a cure." Philip just gritted his teeth and cursed, "Why do you have so many excuses? If you can't do it, you can't do it. What is it? If you can't, just get out of here, and come over with something that works." On the contrary, Yan Zhen stopped Yang Gong, frowning and thinking for a long time. He also realized that this matter is really strange. "I am afraid it is really not a medical matter." At this moment, his son Waliang suddenly yelled, "Oh! Dad! Could it be at the uncle's house today?" Yan Zhen blurted out, "You said it was the kid who did it with me." "That's right. Liang said, he kept talking about cloud ligation at the time. He also said that he made me infertile. He even said that if we ask him for something, we will kneel at the door of the uncle's villa. Could this be done by him? Ghost? Yan Zhen felt a little bit in his heart. It's really possible that the kid did this thing. After all, that kid hooked up and made God of War and a Realm Master weak. Maybe the current situation of our family is inseparable from him. Thinking of this, Yan Zhen gritted his teeth and cursed, if it's that fraudulent, I must kill him. Yang Gong hurriedly said, Brother, how would we kill him? Did you forget how abnormal his strength is? Even if you send 5 war gods and 5 realm masters, I'm afraid you can't beat him. Liang also said to the side, Yes, Dad, today we went to the uncle's house and caught the uncle by surprise. Now the uncle must have sent someone to protect him tightly. With that kid at that home, we're afraid we won't be able to get anything cheap. When Yan Zhen heard this, he suddenly became decadent again. This is so uncomfortable. Knowing that it was the ghost of that kid, but he couldn't provoke him. How to mess with it? Bring dozens of masters over, maybe there are more than 100 masters around the villa secretly protecting it. Coupled with the incredible strength of that kid, he certainly has no chance of winning. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and said coldly, It seems that we still have to take a long-term view. Let's bear with him first. On the board of directors tomorrow, we will take down the position of chairman. The other 3 nodded. Right now, it's not the time to go head-to-head with Philip and Charlie, but to find a way to take the position of chairman first. Once he seizes his power in the group, the situation will undergo a huge change. By then, Philip can only be eroded. After making up his mind, Yan Zhen said to the director of the andrology department, You can arrange to get a part of the SP3RM for the 4 of us to freeze. Frozen SP3RM. The others were also a little surprised. Yang Gong asked, Big brother, which one are you doing? Yan Zhen said with a cold face, I'm afraid that if we really can't recover, the blood of the 2 families and the blood of the entire Gu family will be severed. First, freeze the SP3RM. In case we can't recover, we can still use artificial insemination. Way to continue the blood. Yang Gong suddenly understood that the second brother was planning for the worst, leaving seeds for the 2 families first. He couldn't help sighing from the bottom of his heart, I have to say that the second brother's idea is very far-sighted. At first glance, he is a person who has a great view of the overall situation. If you want to be yourself, you will definitely not think of this. When the time comes, the worst situation will come. Didn't that Gu family cut off their children? Liang and Wei Guang, 2 young people, also realized the importance of this matter, so they both nodded in agreement. If you freeze the SP3RM first, you will leave the seeds. It is very easy to get a child later. After all, as the old saying goes, be prepared. Therefore, the director of the andrology department immediately arranged painless manual sampling for the 4 people and prepared a series of tests at the same time. As long as it is taken out, it will be sampled for testing immediately, and the rest will be frozen at ultra-low temperature with liquid nitrogen. Once the testing is completed and there is no problem, it can be safely stored for a long time. However, when the samples were taken out and tested under the testing equipment, the doctors discovered a fact that they could not believe. When they reported the results to the director of the andrology department, the director was swaying with fright. Yan Zhen and others saw that his face was very ugly, and immediately asked, "What's the matter? Is there anything unusual?" The director of the andrology department swallowed his saliva, forced himself to calm down, and said, Second master. Third master, there are also 2 young masters. The results have come out. The survival rate of your 4 seeds is, the survival rate." Seeing him grimacing, Waliang yelled anxiously, "What are you doing here? What is the survival rate, what are you?" The director of the andrology department had no choice but to bite the bullet and said tremblingly, "The survival rate of your 4 seeds is 0. "What?" the 4 of them exclaimed. Yang Gong injured his bladder, and his body was a little weak. One of them couldn't stand firmly and sat on the ground with a thud. This news is like a bolt from the blue to the Gu family. The survival rate of seeds is 0. Doesn't this mean that they no longer have the ability to reproduce offspring? Yan Zhen's frightened hands were shaking, and even his right hand wrapped in plaster was shaken by him. He trembled and asked, "What is going on? How could the seed not survive? I have always been normal." Yet, Waliang also cried and said, "A few months ago, I just enlarged the belly of a tender M0del. In order to prevent her from haunting me, it took 1,000,000 to get her observation. Why is there no survival rate now?" When Yan Zhen heard this, he slapped him with his left hand angrily, and cursed, "You fraudulent! You've made other people's stomachs bigger, so you won't let her give birth. What if she give birth to a son? Does our family have a future?" Waliang was full of grievances and choked up, "Dad! You reminded me repeatedly that when you asked me to mess around outside, don't make a woman's belly bigger, let alone have an ill egg, timid child. You said that this would affect me in other colleges. The image in the eyes of the family will reduce my worth a lot, and I will not be able to marry the eldest daughter of the top family in the future, so I spent money to have her abortion. Isn't this all according to your intentions?" Yan Zhen yelled, raised his hand and slapped him several times, and while slapped, he cursed resentfully, "Make your mouth cheap! Make your mouth cheap! Make your mouth cheap!" In fact, he knew very well that what his son Waliang said was the truth. Among the wealthy families in China, marriage is based on a good match. This good match depends not only on the strength of the family, but also on the qualities of both men and women. If it is also 100 billion class family, the male looks wretched, and the female has a delicate appearance, then there is no doubt that the eldest lady of this 100 billion class family cannot be regarded the young master of this 100 billion class family. If it is the same 100 billion class family, men are just like talents, and women are in a mess, the elders and young masters will not compromise. In addition to looks, if one of them is inferior, it will also greatly reduce their own value. Among them, the most detrimental point for men is having ill egg, timid children outside. Big family marriages, regardless of whether they are men or women, are spoiled by their parents. Which eldest lady is willing to marry a man with an ill egg, timid child and become a stepmother? Impossible. Even when Sarah met Charlie again, she paid great attention to this matter. How could she be willing to be a stepmother at a young age and a young lady? Yan Zhen also wants his son to maintain his own competitiveness, so he has repeatedly warned him that it is okay to play outside, but he must not have children. At that time, he never thought that his son would lose his fertility one day. It's better now, the seed survival rate is 0, and an illegitimate child has been killed. Isn't it true that it will cut off the children and grandchildren in the future? Liang was also very angry. It's useless by itself, and the seed has no survival rate. Not only will he have no chance to get close to beauty in the future, but also have no chance to be a father. Isn't this just being a eunuch? Thinking of this, he looked at Yan Zhen with trepidation, and blurted out, "Dad! This must be at the uncle's house. He has done something to us, or let's beg him." "Nothing can be said. I'm still young, I don't want to be a living eunuch in the future." Wei Guang on the side was also scared to death, crying and said, "Second uncle, Dad, I don't want to be a living eunuch either." Yan Zhen said with a black face, "Now go and beg him, what will the board of directors do tomorrow? When I was at your uncle's house today, I had already let go of the conversation. I will see him at the board of directors tomorrow. If today we run to beg that kid, they are bound to threaten the board of directors. Moreover, maybe your uncle will use this to force me and your third uncle to sell all the voting rights. In that case, we will never be able to defeat your uncle. In the Gu group, shares and voting rights correspond. In other words, if you own 51% of the shares, you have 51% of the voting rights. As long as the voting power accounts for 51%, all company affairs can be determined. But there are exceptions. For example, if Yan Zhen voluntarily, or is forced to surrender the voting rights corresponding to the part of the shares he owns, to Philip completely, then Philip will have his part of the right to speak. As for Yan Zhen, although the shares are still there, the voting rights are gone and the voice is gone. This is also the fundamental reason why Ali's Jack Ma has a very low shareholding ratio, but has a high right to speak. Other shareholders trust him, or can't beat him, and transfer all the voting rights to him, then he will naturally be able to say and do things. This is what Yan Zhen is worried about right now. He was extremely depressed at this time, and couldn't help but secretly said, "It's all the blame me for being mean. I first mentioned the board of directors and gave my eldest brother a bit of prestige. If I go to my eldest brother now, I will definitely be countered by this. So, in any case, I have to endure it until I succeed in seizing power tomorrow. It really doesn't work. You can use the money to buy the young man in brother's house after the matter is done. 100 million is not enough, and 1 billion is not enough. After all, there are no people in this world who can't move money." Because he didn't dare to delay the board's plan to seize power tomorrow, Yan Zhen decided to endure tonight first. At the same time, he immediately asked the dean of the hospital to promise to pay a lot of money to find some top experts in related fields from the United States, and let them come and try to see if they can be cured by medical means. If they can, that would be the best. When that happens, they don't need to ask the kid, just kill him. If they can't, then this thing is a bit tricky. In order to keep on surpassing children and grandchildren, maybe they actually kneel down for that kid to beg for mercy. Thinking of Charlie's extremely arrogant face, Yan Zhen felt uncomfortable all over his body. Yang Gong on the side asked in a low voice, "Second brother, for tomorrow's board of directors, won't that kid come too?" Yan Zhen felt a little bit in his heart, and his face immediately changed. "If that guy comes to the board of directors tomorrow, I am afraid it will be uncomfortable. If he helped Philip suppress us, what would he do?" After thinking about it for a long time, he couldn't think of any solution, so he sighed and said, "Now it is meaningless to think about this, and there is no way to think of any way. When the time comes, soldiers will stop them and cover them." Philip just remembered something, and whispered, "Second brother, do you remember that the kid in the eldest brother's family mentioned Fredman from the future company group? That guy came back from abroad some time ago, and he kept looking for opportunities to flatter me and want to engage with us. Click to cooperate. Do you want me to ask him over to ask about the situation?" "Okay." Yan Zhen said hurriedly, "You can call him now and ask him to come to the hospital to see me." Since leaving Oris Hill in a dingy manner, Fredman spent most of his time seeking medical advice all over the world, hoping to cure himself. He first went to Japan, and then to the United States. He went around for a long time. He found a lot of doctors and spent a lot of money, but he couldn't solve the problem. Over time, Fredman basically gave up in his heart. Fortunately, he was getting older and had children. After giving up treatment, he simply focused on his career. Once a person loses lust and distractions and concentrates on his career, his concentration will increase exponentially. Therefore, Fredman now only wants to make the future company group bigger and make more money, and then use money and material to fill his body and lust. However, in Eastcliff, the Wilson family can only be regarded as a second-rate family, and the gap with the top family is still very large. Fredman wanted to hug a thigh, so he hugged it, and finally got a little relationship with Yang Gong of the Gu family. But even though he tried desperately to kneel and lick Yang Gong looked down on him somewhat, and didn't even think of accepting him as a dog. When he was worried about how to conquer Yang Gong, he suddenly received a call from him. So he hurriedly connected and said flatly, "Oh, Mr. Gu, why are you free to call me?" Yang Gong asked him, "Old Wilson, are you in Eastcliff?" "I'm here." Fredman said hurriedly, "I haven't left Eastcliff since I came back from the United States." "What is your order, President Gu?" Yang Gong said, "I want to ask you about something, but this matter is more important. Can you come to the Gu Group Hospital now? Let's talk better in person." "Yes." Fredman said with a smile, "President Gu, wait a while, I'll rush over." "Well, I'll wait for you here." At this moment, Charlie and Philip's family had dinner, and they were dragged by Philip to drink a lot of liquor before returning to the guest room Lennon arranged for him, taking a bath and lying down to rest. At this time, Claire called him and asked him, "Husband, how is your progress in Eastcliff?" Charlie smiled and said, "It's not bad, the overall situation is fairly smooth, and it will be finished in about 3 days soon." "That's good." Claire hummed, and said concerned, "You have to take care of yourself when you are outside. After all, you have never traveled far." Charlie was a little moved in his heart and smiled and said, "My wife, don't worry, I am an adult too, and can take good care of myself." I will rush back when I'm done. Okay. Claire smiled. By the way, husband, I have to ask you for something. Charlie asked hurriedly, wife, what are you doing so politely with me? Just tell me what's the matter. Claire said, that's right. Elsa was chatting with me today. She happened to be back in Eastcliff, and her grandmother has her birthday at noon the day after tomorrow. Can you help me buy some gifts to give to her? Birthday gift? Charlie calculated the time, and his business is mainly tomorrow. In the morning, I have to accompany Philip to the GU group to participate in the board of directors, and then go to his parents' grave to pay homage to his parents. However, there is no arrangement for the day after tomorrow. I was thinking about staying the day after tomorrow to see if GU's affairs can be dusty. Settling, if the dust settles, then I will return to Oris Hill the day after tomorrow. Therefore, the day after tomorrow he was not prepared to leave Eastcliff, and it was not a big problem to drop by to attend the birthday banquet of Elsa's grandmother. However, Charlie felt somewhat uncomfortable. Elsa came to Eastcliff on the same plane with him. She did not say that she would let him go to her grandma's birthday banquet. Then she chatted with Claire about the incident. He guessed that once she told Claire, Claire would definitely do it. Let him go? Charlie didn't really feel anything towards Elsa, but Elsa always thought a little bit carefully, which made him feel a little repulsive. For example, that time she invited Claire to take a hot spring. In fact, the purpose was him, but he used a curve to save the country to find a breakthrough from Claire. This time it was the same, basically a repeat of the old trick. He doesn't know why this woman is interested in him, so he has to let her give up on herself. However, even though Charlie had some opinions in his heart, he readily agreed and said, that's it, I will prepare a gift tomorrow, and I will pass it at noon the day after tomorrow. Okay. Claire said, thank you, husband, for your hard work on my behalf. When I went to Eastcliff to play during my university, Grandma was very enthusiastic about me. I originally wanted to go to Eastcliff in person. Yes, but I have to take my mother to the hospital for a review tomorrow. If there is nothing wrong with the review, the cast on her leg will be removed, and she has been clamoring to hurry up the missing front teeth, so I am stuck here. I really can't get away for a few days, I can only ask you. Charlie smiled and said, don't worry, wife, I will do it well. Claire asked, I'll transfer some money to you, and you can find a suitable gift at a price of around 100,000. As for what you buy, I believe in your vision. Charlie smiled and said, you don't need to transfer money to me, I have money, and the customers here have already settled the bill in advance. Claire was surprised and said, so generous. Charlie said, after all, it's a big family. Claire said, well. In that case, then I won't be polite to you. Thank you, husband. Eastcliff in the night. Fredman sat on his Rolls-Royce, galloping on the road at night. He is very trendy at this time. After all, it was the invitation of Yang Gong, the third member of the GU family, who was going to go. Although Yang Gong ranks at the bottom of the GU family and does not have any real power, he is still a direct heir of the GU family after all. Both the number of assets and the social status is much stronger than Fredman. Therefore, Fredman desperately tried to flatter him, hoping to pass him and catch the Gu family line. Although he didn't know what Philip had just looking for himself, but he could take the initiative to find himself, which in itself was a big improvement. 20 minutes later, Fredman rushed to Gu's hospital, when Yang Gong's son Wei Guang was already waiting at the door. Seeing Fredman, he stepped forward and asked, "Is it Uncle Wilson?" Fredman nodded hurriedly and smiled and asked, "Are you Gu's son?" "Yes." Wei Guang nodded and said, "Uncle Wilson, follow me in. Both my father and my second uncle are waiting for you." Fredman asked in surprise, "Is the second master also there?" "Yes, they are all waiting for you." Fredman became excited when he heard this. In the entire East Cliff, everyone knows that the Gu family's boss is seriously ill and that time is running out, so everyone knows that the head of the Gu family will definitely become the second master of the Gu family, Yan Zhen. He didn't even dare to dream that he would have a chance to get along with the second master of the Gu family. But isn't there a ready-made opportunity in front of him today? He hurriedly followed Wei Guang to the intensive care ward. In the ward, he saw Yan Zhen and Yang Gong with strange expressions. As soon as Yang Gong saw him come in, he hurriedly drove all the other people out except the second brother, leaving only 3 of them in the ward. So Yang Gong just got into the topic and asked Fredman, "Old Wilson, I ask you one thing, you must answer truthfully." Fredman said without hesitation, "Don't worry, I must know that everything is endless." Yang Gong endured the shame and embarrassment, and asked, "Old Wilson, I ask you, are you infertile now?" After Fredman heard this, his whole body was struck by lightning, standing still, dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. He didn't even dream of it. As soon as Yang Gong spoke, he asked such a question that hit the soul directly. He could not help secretly, "I did lose my fertility, but outsiders don't know about it." How did Yang Gong know about it? Should I admit to such a shameful thing? In addition, Yang Gong called me over to ask me this. What is the problem? Seeing that Fredman looked embarrassed, but didn't say a word, Yang Gong was just anxious, and he smacked his lips and said, "Oh, Old Wilson, what are you doing? Is it such a question, so difficult to answer? Just tell me, is it or not?" Although Fredman didn't know why Yang Gong asked himself this question, but thinking about his inexhaustible promise to him just now, he still bit the bullet and said, "Mr. Gu, to be honest, I really have no fertility." Yang Gong and his brother Yan Zhen glanced at each other, and then he hurriedly asked, "Old Wilson, tell me, how come you have no fertility? What's the matter?" Fredman said awkwardly, "Mr. Gu, why are you so concerned about this issue? To be honest, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but such things are really a shame to speak out." Yan Zhen, who hasn't spoken all the time, said, "Mr. Wilson, don't have any psychological burdens. We are looking for you. To tell the truth, it's the exchange of information between patients. It's so easy for everyone to share more clues." "What?" Fredman was dumbfounded. "Information exchange between patients? What does it mean? Don't these 2 brothers have that ability now? No way. These 2 are the men of the Gu family. And both of them are younger than himself. How could something go wrong at such a young age?" He couldn't help asking, Second Lord, what is going on? Yan Zhen waved his hand and said, Mr. Wilson, let me talk about your business first. I hope you can fulfill your promise. To me and the third, I know everything and say nothing. I want to know the whole thing. The cause and effect of the matter. Fredman nodded, then sighed for a long time, and said, Hey, this matter has to be wound up, that's a long story. Having said that, Fredman went to Oris Hill for his father's last wish, met the Wilson family, and encountered Charlie, being punished by Charlie, and he told all to the Gu family brothers. At first, the Gu family didn't feel anything. When they heard that Charlie made him confused and lost that ability, Yan Zhen hurriedly asked, What is the origin of that kid named Charlie Wade? Could it be the Wade family? Fredman thought of Charlie and gritted his teeth and said, That kid named Charlie, he's the son-in-law of the Wilson family in Oris Hill. That family is not as small as a hair. Their group was losing money and was in negative equity. I owe tens of millions to the bank. Even so, the surnamed Wade and his father-in-law's family are still despised in this family. They are just rubbish among the rubbish. How could it be from Wade's family? People. Yan Zhen hurriedly asked him, What does that kid look like? Fredman said, He is tall, looks a little handsome, speaks a little bit forcefully, and looks awkward. Yan Zhen frowned and said to Yang Gong, Maybe it's the kid in the elder brother's house. Yang Gong blurted out, It must be him. Second brother, you forgot. He actively mentioned Mr. Wilson's name. He must be the same person as Charlie who abolished Mr. Wilson's fertility. Fredman was shocked when he heard this, and blurted out, What do you mean? Is that Charlie fraudulent next to the eldest brother Philip? That's right. Yan Zhen gritted his teeth. Today, my brothers and our sons suffered a lot from his hands. This kid is toxic. He said he made us infertile. We are really gone. Yet. Yang Gong also said angrily, when this BTCH changed his mouth, just a word, the four of us somehow lost that ability. Fredman took a breath. Charlie is too ruthless, right? Abolish the Gu's second child, third, and their sons directly? The Gu family is also the third-ranked super family in East Cliff anyway. If this kid broke the Gu family's incense, is he not afraid of Gu family's crazy revenge? Fredman was surprised and shocked, and couldn't help but sigh. Speaking of which, Charlie is really mysterious. He also moved his mouth that day, and then I was confused. Having said this, Fredman couldn't help but think of his tragic experience in Oris Hill. First he was beaten by Charlie, and then he was deprived of his ability to be a man. This is not the worst. The worst thing is that he mistakenly believed in the old thing surnamed Wei, and ate the so-called magic medicine of the Wei family. Not only did he fail to regain his glory, he almost broke his roots. In the end, it was under Charlie's treatment that he could barely save his roots. As for Charlie's treatment when he kept his roots, it was another history of blood and tears. At that time, 1 liter of urine was matched with 1 liter of medicine, so that he still has a shadow. Thinking of this, he couldn't help sighing, Hey, you two didn't know, I was in Oris Hill, my old bone, but his mother made this kid miserable. Yan Zhen gritted his teeth and said, According to this kid is just the live-in son-in-law of the Oris Hill family, but how can he get online with my elder brother? This is too strange. After Charlie's parents were killed for many years after leaving Eastcliff, Yan Zhen had no longer in his mind the image and memory of Charlie's father. Therefore, he couldn't understand Charlie's identity and could not figure out him. The son-in-law of the city rag comes to the door. Why can he mix with his eldest brother? And he was invited to the house by the eldest brother to have dinner with his family of 3. You know, with the background of the eldest brother, even those few well-known internet entrepreneurs in the country cannot be treated like this. Fredman remembered something, and blurted out, I remember, this Charlie was in Oris Hill. He was abducted and deceived and scammed many people. Many local figures who have a good reputation should call him master. Master? Yan Zhen frowned and asked him, what master? Which kind of master? Fredman said, it seems to be feng shui or something. It is said that he has a good sense of feng shui. The local rich man asked him to see feng shui once and he was rewarded with tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. A big villa worth more than 100 million, don't know how this kid can fool around so much. Yang Gong hurriedly said, second brother. I understand. The eldest brother must be dying of illness. He really doesn't know what to do, so he can only go to the doctor if he is sick, and believe that the metaphysics of feng shui luck has come. Yan Zhen nodded in agreement, and sneered, I think so. 80% of them are really afraid of death and crazy, so asked a liar to renew his life. Yang Gong sneered, it's really interesting. Didn't he yell all his life that he is an atheist? He never believed in ghosts or gods. How come he is dying now and believes in feng shui luck again? Then who knows to go? Yan Zhen waved his hand and said, however, this kid is really a bit mysterious. I still don't understand how he made us lose that ability. Could it be that he really has some metaphysical skills? Fredman hurriedly said flatteringly, oh, my second master, there are some insights about this matter, but it hasn't been verified. If you don't mind, I can say it and give you reference. Yan Zhen nodded, you say it. Fredman said, I'm wondering, the metaphysical things are true, but they are also macroscopic. For example, it may gradually affect the quality of luck, but it is unlikely to affect a person's fertility in an instant. So I think that kid must have used some kind of slamming method. Yan Zhen asked, sounding? What do you mean? Why do you say that? Fredman explained, this is like making magic. In addition to blindfolding, the most commonly used method for magicians is to make noises. Generally, when he points his right hand to show you, things are usually hidden in his left hand. When the hat is shown to you, things are usually hidden in the sleeves. Yan Zhen nodded solemnly, you go on. Fredman hurriedly said again, look, Charlie seems to be engaged in metaphysics, but I think this grandson must have used some secret method to quietly poison us, but we were distracted when the poison was given, so we didn't notice. Yan Zhen suddenly thought of something. He straightened up and blurted out, it makes sense. It makes sense. I have been thinking why 2 of my men had their necks choked by him, so they had muscle weakness. Now think about it. It is very likely that he quietly used poison on my men. Otherwise, if 2 top masters take good care of them, how can they become 2 wastes inexplicably? Yang Gong on the side was busy saying, "Second brother, if the grandson really poisoned us, then he must have an antidote. Does this mean that as long as we can get the antidote from him, it is possible to recover?" "Yes." Yan Zhen also said immediately, "This kid must have a way to recover us. When we finish our business tomorrow, we will find a way to let him take out the antidote." When Fredman heard this, he was immediately excited. During this period of time, he has been troubled by the treatment of his roots, and he has even given up a bit these days. But this does not mean that he is really willing to accept this status quo, but that he is really powerless. If he can heal his own roots, he is willing to pay no matter how great the price is. So, he hurriedly knelt on one knee, folded his fists on top of his head, and pleaded, "I am also Charlie's victim. After suffering from this kid, if you too have the opportunity to get the antidote, please give me a chance to heal next." Yan Zhen nodded slightly and said, "Mr. Wilson, rest assured, you know everything about us today, and we will not forget you when we get the antidote in the future." Fredman said excitedly, "Second Lord, thank you so much. Your great kindness is unforgettable." Yan Zhen gave a hum, and said to him, "Mr. Wilson, it's late, and you should go back to rest early. We will keep in touch with you about this matter, and we will notify you if we have any news." Fredman nodded hurriedly, and said respectfully, "Second Lord, then I will leave first." As soon as Fredman left, Philip hurriedly asked Yan Zhen, "Second brother, what is your chance of winning and let Wade hand over the cure?" Yan Zhen coldly snorted, "Did you not listen to Fredman's words? This kid is actually a liar who shows feng shui. He must be looking for money when he comes to East Cliff to see his eldest brother. As long as he is looking for money, there is nothing to worry about. Yes, when we finish the board of directors tomorrow, I will directly use the money to hit him willingly to kneel down and call me Lord." Because of the strong cold air, the temperature in East Cliff dropped sharply at night, and heavy snow fluttered in the sky. Charlie received a push on his cell phone saying that East Cliff had issued a blue blizzard warning from today night to tomorrow day. Charlie was wearing a single shirt and stepped out of the balcony of the guest room, thinking all his parents were in his mind. "Tomorrow, I'm going to visit my parents' grave." This matter had been shelved in his heart for 18 years, and he was always thinking about it. When he was in deep thought, he suddenly heard Sarah's voice, "Charlie, are you not cold with so little clothes?" Charlie looked back. Sarah didn't know when she had entered the room and came to the balcony door. She hurriedly explained, "Excuse me, Charlie, I knocked on the door just now, and no one answered, so I pushed the door and came in by myself." Charlie smiled slightly and nodded softly, "It's okay, what are you doing so politely between you and me?" Suddenly, 2 red clouds appeared on Sarah's pretty face. She walked to Charlie and asked him, "Charlie, were you thinking about something just now?" Charlie nodded, "I'm thinking about the past." Sarah gently touched his hand, and then held him without letting go. She said in gratitude, "Charlie, thanks to you for my father's condition, thank you for saving his life." Charlie said sincerely, "Sarah, Uncle is a good brother of my father, and an elder I respect. I can't help but watch him seriously ill if I don't have the ability. This ability is naturally to save him." Yet, Sarah nodded heavily, and said, "Charlie, how many days can you stay in East Cliff this time? I won't accompany my father to the board meeting tomorrow, and after sweeping the grave for Uncle Wade and Anton, are you going back?" Charlie said, "I still have some personal affairs the day after tomorrow, and I will go back after I'm done." Sarah's expression was a bit regretful and sad for a while. She raised her head, looked at him with clear and eager eyes, and asked, "Charlie, can't you stay for a few more days? It's the Chinese New Year at this site, or you just leave after the New Year at my house." Charlie chuckled, "There are still 20 days left during the Chinese New Year. If I never go back, I can't explain to your sister-in-law." Sarah said with a pretty face, "I don't admit that she is my sister-in-law, and you are not really my brother, you are the fiancé I have identified since I was a child." Charlie shook his head helplessly and smiled, "Okay, what you say is what you say." Suddenly, Sarah felt a little disappointed and secretly said, "Every time I chat with Charlie, he always reminds me in various ways that he is married. But, doesn't he know that the life of his parents is greater than the sky? At least after so many years of warning myself, why can't he be like me?" Thinking of this, Sarah couldn't help sighing, holding Charlie's hand, and couldn't help but use some strength, and said with a bit of sadness, "Charlie, you are the young master of the Wade family, and you are so capable, Wilson in Orris Hill, you cannot tolerate long. Sooner or later you have to return to East Cliff." Charlie was taken aback for a moment, and said calmly, "If I can come back, let's talk about it later." That night, Charlie had an absurd dream. In the dream, his parents did not die. He was still the young master of the Wade family, and he has grown up. He has attracted a lot of attention in East Cliff, and he can call the wind and rain. In his dream, he wore a decent suit, brought the bridegroom's corsage, and led a luxurious convoy to the super villa of Gu's family. In the villa, Sarah was wearing a holy white wedding dress, sitting on the bed in her boudoir, looking at herself with a flowery smile. Then, a group of young men and women who they didn't know urged them to look for Sarah's red shoes everywhere. When he found Sarah's red shoes and personally helped her put them on, the scene immediately flashed to the wedding scene. The wedding in the dream is grand to the extreme. Both Charlie's parents were there, with a happy and kind smile on faces. When the wedding music sounded, Philip took Sarah's hand, walked up to him, smiled and handed Sarah's hand to him. Afterwards, the two said their wedding vows, exchanged wedding rings, and kissed each other. Then, the MC asked Sarah to turn her back to the bridesmaid and throw out her bouquet. However, it was Claire who grabbed the bouquet. However, Claire did not look happy when she grabbed the bouquet. On the contrary, her expression was very resentful. Charlie's eyes met her, he couldn't help but slapped a sharp spirit, and suddenly opened his eyes, only to realize that it was just a dream. He was shocked by the absurdity in the dream, and he was stunned for a few minutes before he gradually recovered. Seeing that the sky outside the window was getting brighter, he sighed, got up to wash, and walked out of the room. Downstairs, Lennon is preparing breakfast with the servant. Philip is up early, sitting in the living room vigorously holding a cup of coffee, and reading the latest newspaper this morning. There are not many people who still like to read newspapers these days. Philip is one of them. Seeing Charlie come downstairs, he immediately smiled and waved at him, and said with a smile, "Charlie, come." "Okay, uncle." Charlie replied and walked over. On the sofa, he sat beside Philip. Philip handed him the newspaper in his hand, smiled and said, "Look at the front page." Charlie took the newspaper and looked at the front page headline. There was a big line on it: "The chairman of the GU Group is critically ill, and the Trillion Group may have no leader." Charlie couldn't help but frowned, and said, "This newspaper is too irresponsible, right?" Philip smiled slightly and said, "This must be the ghost of my two younger brothers. First let out the news that I am critically ill, and then let the stockholders and the market lose confidence in the GU Group, and ask the securities institutions to lower their share price and performance expectations. In that case, the GU Group's share price will inevitably trigger a decline." While speaking, Philip looked at his watch and smiled. "It's 8:30, and there's still an hour to open. By that time, the stock prices of all listed companies under the GU Group will surely fall sharply, or even directly limit." Charlie couldn't help frowning. "Uncle, they are also shareholders of the GU Group. By doing this, isn't it a loss of their own interests?" Philip shook his head and smiled. "For major shareholders, it doesn't matter if the stock price drops a bit." After speaking, Philip explained, "Look, if the stock price drops because of the news that I am seriously ill now, the most anxious ones are retail investors and small shareholders. Seeing that they have less money, they will definitely come through various channels. Express dissatisfaction, and the stock price falls because I am seriously ill. This pot is definitely for me to carry, so when the time comes, they can better incite other shareholders to force me to give way, because now the market is not at ease with me. Only I gave way so they could breathe a sigh of relief. Once they successfully achieve their goals and kick me out of the board of directors, the stock price will rise back in time, so for the two of them, there is basically no actual loss. This trick is called killing with a knife." After listening to Philip's explanation, Charlie understood that the second and third GU family men's real purpose of manipulating the media to release this kind of news was. He is also increasingly looking forward to what the two living eunuchs will think after seeing the radiant Philip when he arrives at the GU Group. At this time, Sarah also walked down, saw her father and Charlie reading the newspaper, and asked curiously, "Dad, Charlie, what news are you reading? You so relish." Philip smiled and said, "Your dad, I made headlines today." "Really?" Sarah hurried over, glanced at the title, and immediately said angrily, "This is too much, right? Even if the condition worsened before, it just needs to be hospitalized again, which is far from critical. What the media say is not responsible at all." Philip laughed and said, "You are in the entertainment industry yourself. Don't you know the virtues of this private media? Chasing after the wind, listening to the wind is rain, and even talking nonsense. Isn't this what they do best? Besides, there must be someone behind it, or they would not publish such unverified news." Sarah suddenly realized that, after thinking for a moment, she blurted out and asked, "Dad, did the second and third uncles do it?" Philip nodded. "Apart from them, there will be no other people. All of this must be for today's board of directors to build momentum and make me more passive then." After speaking, Philip said again, "Based on what I know about them, they will definitely invite media reporters to the scene today. They want to take pictures of my frail and dying illness and show them to the people all over the country. This is too much. Sarah suddenly said angrily, then you will go over later, and directly tell the media face to face, that your illness has been cured, and they will be pissed off by then. Philip smiled and said, I have greeted Liang White just now. Before today's board of directors is over, no media reporters can enter the GU Group building. After the meeting is over, the press conference will be held. The directors get off the hook. Liang White is Philip's deputy and the person he trusts most in the GU Group. He has personally cultivated him and is very reliable. Lennon heard the dialogue and walked over and said, be loyal, or I will go with you today. Philip waved his hand, don't come with me. The group already has a system, and family members are not allowed to interfere with work, and Sarah is a public figure and it is not easy to get involved, so you two are waiting at home and let Charlie accompany me. I will go. When Lennon heard this, she nodded. After dinner, Charlie and Philip shared a Rolls-Royce, and under the protection of the security team, went to the GU Group. These security personnel were hired by Philip from a top security company yesterday afternoon. This time, he invested a huge amount of money to protect himself, and the safety of his wife and child, and he will never let anyone enter the room. The convoy drove into the underground parking lot of the GU Group building. Here, there is an elevator dedicated to the chairman, which can directly reach the top floor of the building from the underground parking lot. Only Philip and his entourage are qualified to use this elevator, even Yan Zhen and Yang Gong are not qualified. Moreover, the entrance of the chairman's exclusive elevator in the underground parking lot is in a separate enclosed garage. In other words, not only is it impossible for ordinary people to use his dedicated elevator, even if they want to enter this enclosed garage, it is impossible. After the elevator reached the 58th floor, it came to a completely enclosed office area for the chairman. This area has a total of nearly 1,000 square meters, including the chairman's office, lounge, private meeting room and fitness and entertainment rooms. In this area, ordinary people have no chance to enter. In other words, from the moment Philip entered the closed garage of the underground parking lot, he entered an environment where no one could disturb him, and the people who appeared here were his confidants. After Philip brought Charlie and a group of bodyguards to his office, he immediately picked up the phone on the desk and said, "Let Liang come over." Soon, a middle-aged man in his 40s knocked on the door and came in. When the man saw Philip, he was stunned. It took a long time to come back to his senses and blurted out, "Chairman, your expression today is so much better than before. Moreover, you feel better than before you fell ill." Philip nodded slightly and said with a smile, "The doctor told me that the tumor in my body has completely disappeared." Liang White asked in surprise, "Really, Chairman? All the tumors in your body have disappeared?" "Yes." Philip smiled indifferently, "From now on, I am a healthy person again." "Great!" Liang White said excitedly, "This is simply a miracle." Philip nodded and smiled, "I think so too." Liang White was very excited. The chairman, the two vice-chairmen, and those directors are all discussing your condition in the conference room outside. Just after the stock market opened, all the stocks of our listed companies all fell by the limit. What else did they say? If you don't give up the position of chairman, the stocks will definitely fall to the limit tomorrow. This is good. You can slap them in the face. Then officially announce to the people of the whole country that you have recovered." Philip smiled and said, "This is natural. Since they want me to be critically ill, then I will let them feel what it means to be completely disappointed." After that, he said again, "Liang, go and tell them that I will be there to preside over the meeting in 5 minutes." Liang White nodded quickly, "Okay, Chairman, I will go now." After Liang left, Philip stood up and said to Charlie vigorously, "Charlie, come, with Uncle, kill the enemy before the battle." Charlie nodded and smiled, and said, "Uncle, please you first." Philip laughed and took Charlie out of the office, and then stepped out of the chairman's private office area. In the large conference room on the 58th floor, Yan Zhen and Yang Gong, brothers, had already made their sense. Today they have made perfect preparations. Not only did they get the support of some minority shareholders, but they also used this morning's headlines to make the outside world think that the big brother Philip is about to die. Now the stock price has plummeted, and other minority shareholders are also in panic and continue to fall. Therefore, at this moment, the board members in the entire conference room have all fallen to the brothers. Yan Zhen had even thought out a specific implementation plan. After the eldest brother comes, he directly will throw the prepared newspaper in front of him, and then throw all the stock price drop lists at him. Then, without waiting for him to explain, he immediately will ask the board of directors to vote again and recommend a new chairman on the grounds that the current chairman is incompetent for this important position. When Philip was clanging like an abacus, the door of the office was pushed open vigorously. Immediately afterwards, Philip, who was full of red face and not irritable, walked in. Charlie followed him closely and entered the meeting room. Everyone in the conference room, including Yan Zhen and Yang Gong, was shocked and stunned after seeing Philip's spirited appearance. Yan Zhen and Yang Gong looked at each other. Although the brothers did not communicate at all, they were thinking the same question. The sick eldest brother yesterday suddenly became radiant today. But it was just a night after that. Isn't it too obvious? The other board members, because they haven't seen Philip for a long time, and seeing news reports, thought he was really dying, or even dead. They were even mentally prepared, and felt that Philip might be pushed in by someone in a wheelchair, sucking oxygen. Therefore, when they suddenly saw his vigorous appearance, everyone was extremely shocked. Is this the chairman who is said to be critically ill in the media report? The current chairman seems to be in a much better condition than before he fell ill. Is this what people often say? But it's not like it. He looked like a middle-aged man who can no longer be healthy. Yang Gong just secretly stabbed Yang Zheng and asked with a dazed expression, "Second brother, what is going on?" Yan Zhen gritted his teeth and shook his head, "I don't know either." At this time, Philip had already arrived at the special seat in the center in front of the conference table, and let Charlie sit on his right hand. After sitting down, Philip looked around with fierce eyes for a long time, and said in a somewhat strong voice, "Everyone, I apologize to everyone here. I rarely came to the group during this period. The group operated normally. You have worked hard." Everyone looked at him and he looked at them, and they didn't know how to respond. This is mainly because many small shareholders in it have been bought by Yan Zhen and Yang Gong, and they are ready to remove Philip from the board of directors today. However, seeing Philip in excellent condition, they didn't know what to do at once. Seeing this, Yanzhen felt a little flustered in his heart, but he also knew that if he didn't quickly find a way to suppress the situation at this time, then all of his plans today might be aborted. So he immediately opened his mouth and said, "Chairman, you haven't been in charge of the group's affairs for so long. Everyone here has paid a lot for the group. Are you as the chairman of the board a bit too incompetent?" Philip nodded and smiled, and said, "You are right. I am indeed not competent enough during this period of time, so I didn't say anything just now. Thank you all. This is my true feelings to you. This is a hard time for everyone." After speaking, Philip said again, "In the past 20 years, everyone has been by my side and accompany me in the business. I am also fortunate to live up to everyone's expectations and to make the group stronger and stronger. In those 20 years of rapid progress, I have never taken credit for arrogance and never abandoned any comrade in arms. During this time, I was left behind for a month or two due to personal reasons. Everyone thinks of my hard work over the past 20 years. Should I be blamed?" As soon as this was said, the other shareholders around him waved their hands subconsciously and said in unison, "How can it be, Chairman? Why can we blame you?" Charlie listened beside him, and couldn't help but admire Philip. Philip's remark just now seemed to be a demonstration of weakness, but it was actually a demonstration to them. He deliberately talked about how he led the group to advance by leaps and bounds in the past 20 years. On the surface, he wanted to make everyone think about the old feelings, but in essence, he was reminding this group of people that in the past 20 years, he was able to lead the group to advance by leaps and bounds. In the next 20 years, he can still make this group develop rapidly. If this group of people wants to exclude him, they must consider the actual situation of the group's development in the past 2 decades, and who can do better than Philip. This group of people realized it instantly. Originally, they wanted to elect second child of Gu family, Yanzhen, as chairman together. However, after Philip's reminder, they couldn't help but revisit the game. In the past 2 decades, Yanzhen's performance in the group has found that this person has not actually made any outstanding achievements, and can only be said to be in the middle distance. Therefore, his overall strength is far worse than his brother. That being the case, why should everyone squeeze out the current chairman of the board and let a second child with poor ability take the post? When the second child fooled everyone, he said that the boss was about to die. But now, the state of the boss looks so good, it doesn't look like a person who will die in a short time. And everyone believes that he can live for another 20 to 30 years in his state. Therefore, at this moment, the hearts of those small shareholders have already turned their backs. They decided to continue to support Philip as chairman, because only he can lead everyone to make more money. When Charlie saw this, he couldn't help but admire. Uncle's hand was nothing short of 1,000 kilograms. At this time, Yanzhen felt sad. The eldest brother is really the eldest brother, and a few words can wipe out all the efforts he has made over the past few months. The key is, how did he get rid of the illness? In just one night, he changed from a person who looked like he was about to die to a healthy person. This is, what a hell! Thinking of this, he suppressed the anger in his heart and asked, Chairman, although I am your brother, but out of responsibility to the entire group, I still have to ask, how is your condition now? Yang Gong on the side also came to assist. Yes, Chairman, as you know, the GU Group is a super large group with a comprehensive market value of more than 1 trillion. There are many listed groups under it, most of which have a market value of more than 10 billion or more than 100 billion. We must be responsible for all shareholders and investors. What will the group do if you die one day? What should we do? What about shareholders? Philip wiped out a smile on his expression, and said calmly, "Good question. I actually want to solemnly report to you about my physical condition." As he said, he cleared his throat and said with a smile, "I did suffer from pancreatic cancer before. Domestic hospitals have relevant medical records, and overseas hospitals also have my major medical records. This is definitely not a fake." Immediately, he sighed and continued, "Initially I thought I was running out of time, but sometimes life is twisting many times. The tumor on my body disappeared miraculously, so now I have regained my health again, and everyone should be able to see that my condition is much better than before, so don't worry, I will definitely lead the GU Group to the next glory." When Philip finished speaking these words loyally and vigorously, other people heard this as if they had taken a reassurance pill immediately. Not only were they relieved a lot, and even an excited smile filled their faces. A few people even clapped involuntarily. As a result, everyone else happily applauded and agreed. Everyone participates in the GU Group, in the final analysis, to make money, and they don't want to engage in gangs and intrigues, they just want to follow the person who can lead them to make money, nothing more. Since a miracle happened to Philip and his serious illness has been healed, why not continue to support him, stand by his side and make more money with him under his leadership? Is not it the best approach? The expressions of Yan Zhen and Yang Gong were suddenly ugly to death. After carefully preparing the plan for such a long time, could it be completed right after the first step? This feeling is really uncomfortable. It is as if you have been practicing martial arts for decades in order to challenge the leader of the martial arts, thinking that I am invincible in the world. As a result, when he arrived in front of the leader of the martial arts, the leader of the martial arts only made one move and he was completely defeated. The blow to the two of them was tremendous. At this time, Yan Zhen was still unwilling to admit defeat. He sternly said, "Big brother, you don't want to take everyone here, how can advanced pancreatic cancer be cured? Do you think we are all 3-year-old children? Didn't Apple's Jobs also leave? You said now that you are healed, who believes it? In case you are playing tricks on everyone, when the time comes for investors to know, they will completely lose confidence in the stock price of our group, and the stock price will collapse all the way." Philip was not angry either. He stood up and turned around and asked with a smile, "Second, you see for yourself, is my current state like I'm sick?" Yan Zhen played a rogue, and said, "What's the use of seeing? My eyes are not CT. I can't see where the tumors on your body are. Maybe you are looking back." Philip snorted coldly, suddenly raised his hand, and slapped his hand to Yan Zhen who was sitting on the left-hand side. There was a pop in the conference room, loud and crisp, and even a few echoes were formed in this huge conference room. He was slapped with a Venus star in his eyes. The tremendous force made him lean back uncontrollably. Then his chair lost balance and fell to the ground with a loud noise. Yang Gong, the third sitting next to him, hurriedly stepped forward to help. Yang Zheng was under his support, holding his head and getting up, yelling angrily, "Big brother, what do you mean? Why do you beat me? You dignified chairman, you beat people on the board of directors, and you are not afraid of being laughed at by outsiders?" Philip smiled slightly and said, "Second, don't you want to know if I have recovered? It was a slap just now, how do you feel? It looks like it was shot by a sick person?" "You." Yan Zhen didn't expect that he would say such a thing after hitting him, and even ridiculing him by accusing. He was suddenly angry. However, at the moment he has nothing to do. He can't beat him with his hands. He can only gritted his teeth and said, "Big brother, there is no point in saying this. If you want to reassure me and investors, you should publish your latest update. The medical examination report must be a report issued by an authoritative medical examination institution." Philip sneered and said, "You can't cry if you don't see the coffin, right? Yes, after the board of directors, I will call up the reporters waiting outside and hold a press conference. After the press conference, I will go to the Fairview for an examination. Now I have a whole body CT scanning, the results will come out very quickly, if the fastest, the results can be announced this afternoon." Yan Zhen saw that he had promised to be so refreshed, and he couldn't continue to find reasons for the trouble, so he gritted his teeth and said, "Okay. Then wait for the results of your physical examination. If you haven't recovered, then I think your physical condition, no, it is suitable to continue to be the chairman of the board, so you should give up the position of chairman and let a healthy person take it." Charlie, who had not spoken all the time, smiled at this time and said, "If the position of chairman must be filled by a healthy person, I believe that neither you nor your brother meets this requirement." Yan Zhen blurted out and shouted, "You don't bullshit here. My body is very healthy." "Really?" Charlie sneered, "If I guessed correctly, you should have lost fertility now? You don't even have fertility. You still have the face to say that you are very healthy? For you, fertility is an ability not important at all?" Yan Zhen had been holding back because of the loss of fertility. His previous character may have long been unable to bear to find Charlie to settle the account. The reason why he has been forbearing, he has not spoken to Charlie until now, is also because he has always put the matter of taking over as chairman of the board first. But he didn't expect that he hadn't found Charlie to take the trouble. This guy actually took the initiative to ridicule him with this incident, which made him suddenly unable to suppress his anger, and blurted out, "You Charlie, I have already treated you to the bottom line of your life, the investigation is clear. Don't think I don't know what your background is, aren't you the son-in-law of a third-rate family in Oris Hill? What are you pretending to be in front of me?" Seeing that Yan Zhen had exploded, Yang Gong also stood up and gritted his teeth and cursed, "LTH, what method did you use? If you don't let us return to normal today, don't blame me for being rude to you. Even if it is. The boss covers you, and we will not spare you." Waliang and Wei Guang, who were sitting at the farthest point in the conference room, kept suppressing their anger towards Charlie. They didn't say a word, just because they were afraid of ruining Yan Zhen and Yang Gong's good deeds. Now seeing that they both attacked Charlie, so stood up immediately. Waliang said viciously, "Charlie, is it? If you don't give us a satisfactory solution to this matter, I will let you lie in the urn back to Oris Hill." Waliang was also not to be outdone, lying in the urn. "Don't even think about going back, I just lift your ashes." Philip screamed with a black face, "It's your turn. Do you think I can't take you home? Do you think I have a disease you can ride on my neck and sh? Charlie smiled slightly at this time and said faintly, "Uncle, you have recovered from a serious illness. Don't get angry with these people, let me have a chat with them." After finishing speaking, he looked at the other shareholders and said kindly, "Everyone, the next thing has nothing to do with the board of directors. Please avoid it first." Everyone looked at Philip. Philip nodded and said, "Okay, let's all go. There will be a reception in the press hall downstairs later. You can move there and wait first." Everyone stood up almost without thinking and left the meeting room in an orderly manner. As the door of the conference room closed again, Philip said to Charlie, "Charlie, it has been specially soundproofed inside, so even if the gun is fired inside, you can't hear it from outside, so you can play freely." Charlie smiled and said, "Okay, Uncle." When Yanzhen and others heard this, their faces paled in shock. They knew that Charlie was very strong, and neither God of War nor Realm Master was his opponent. If he had to do it right away, the four of them would not be enough to watch. Therefore, Yanzhen pretended to be calm and shouted, "Listen to me, I am the second master of the Gu family. My identity is beyond your reach in this life, so you'd better not offend me to death, otherwise if you do, you are at your own risk." Charlie didn't get angry when he heard it. He laughed, and asked him, "Don't tell yourself so arrogantly. At the very least, you have to figure out who I am. Find out who you are." Although Yanzhen was a little afraid of Charlie's strength, when he heard this, his face was still full of disdain. He looked at Charlie and sarcastically said, I have already found out your details a long time ago. Aren't you just the live-in son-in-law of the Oris Hills Wilson family? It's a poor family in a small city. What is it about you?" "Yes." Yang Gong immediately said coldly, "You have to figure it out. Pull out all the big families in Oris Hill and add them together. It's less than half of our Gu family." Yang Gong's words are somewhat arrogant and exaggerated, but fundamentally speaking, there is nothing wrong with his words. Compared with Eastcliff, Oris Hill is indeed not a big city. Moreover, the Song family, Oris Hill's first family, has assets of more than 100 billion, which are far from the Gu family. Therefore, Philip has the confidence to say such arrogant words just now. At this time, Charlie smiled calmly and asked, "You didn't think about it? How could I have met Uncle if I were just the son-in-law of a poor family in a small city?" Philip nodded, looked at his two younger brothers and two nephews playfully, and smiled. Yanzhen coldly snorted, "Do you think don't know what you do? Aren't you just a liar who looks at feng shui?" As he said, Yanzhen was full of disdain, "I know, you did fool a few local turtles in Oris Hill, but you know, this is the East Cliff, not Oris Hill. This is where the dragon and the tiger are really hidden. If you can eat well in Oris Hill, you think you can eat well in East Cliff? There are many people here, and there are as many dragons and phoenixes as the crucian carp that crosses the river. An old fortune-telling man will drop down from the walls of the east cliff. I am afraid he is better than you." Charlie nodded and sighed. "Oh, what you said really gave me the initiation. If you weren't talking about the difference between Oris Hill and East Cliff, I almost forgot about it. I am not from Oris Hill at all, I am actually from East Cliff." "What?" Yan Zhen frowned. "Are you from East Cliff?" "Yeah." Charlie smiled and nodded, patted his chest, and said, "I am a native of East Cliff. I left East Cliff to Oris Hill when I was 8. When Yan Zhen heard this, he immediately sneered. "Could it be that you had no foundation in East Cliff before you were 8? You left East Cliff at the age of 8, and now you come back after such a long time, you dare to run wild in front of me?" Philip smiled and asked him, "My second child, don't you see that Charlie is somewhat familiar? Don't you think he looks like someone?" Yan Zhen squinted his eyes to look at Charlie carefully, and said, "Does this kid have anything special? He's just plain and ordinary, not as handsome as when I was young." Philip laughed out loud. "Second, I didn't expect you to be under my protection. After so many years of pampering you, your whole person will become more and more regressive. It's a waste of more than 40 years. Yan Zhen was startled, and subconsciously asked, "What do you mean?" "You don't have to tell me about it here, just say what you want." Philip nodded. "Okay. Then I'll speak straight." After all, Philip stood up and said in a haughty tone, "Do you remember that I had an elder brother who became a legend, and the Gu family can have today, thanks to his promotion all the way more than 10 or 20 years ago? Even when the old master was alive, he was a guest of honor and respected him. At that time, you were a dude with a half bottle of water. The old master would not allow you to have much contact with my eldest brother, for fear that you would lose the Gu family's face in front of him." "What is my eldest brother's surname?" Yan Zhen had forgotten Charlie's father for many years. After all, the deceased has passed away, and many relatives may not be able to remember the deceased for more than 10 years, let alone Yan Zhen and Charlie's father with no friendship. Back then, Yan Zhen just watched his elder brother worship the brightest star of the Wade family, and he was jealous, but after the death of Charlie's father, he gradually forgot about it. However, now that the eldest brother was so directly named, he immediately thought of the handsome and generous figure. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.